change have not gone unnoticed, and her voice has grown from a local whisper to a national dialogue. Please join me, everybody, in welcoming with open arms and, more importantly, with open ears, a true servant of the people, Halima Khan.
I'm quite tall, so I'm going to have to move the mic a bit. Thank you. 5 years ago, I started working in the Labour Party as an investigations and governance officer. In my interview, I said, when they asked me if I was a member of the Labour Party, I said I'm not here because I believe in the Labour Party or Corbyn. I'm here because I want to prevent another Tony Blair. Now, I didn't have political connections. So when I made it in, I knew it was by the will of Allah. I didn't have political education. I learnt on the job. So when I was offered the job, I cried on the phone to my mother and I said, if there is ever a moment where I will have to choose between my morals or my career, let my career burn. From day one, when I realized that anti-Semitism was the priority, I fought and fought for the voiceless, for the people who have been attacked by anti-black racism and Islamophobia, who are completely sidelined by the Labour Party. And I succeeded in creating a definition for Islamophobia and anti-black racism, which the Labour Party has a cheek to use in their defense of their racism. It was in 2021 when the war on Gaza was going on and I was investigating Newham Labour. Now, what I saw in Newham Labour was one of the worst levels of corruption in entire London region, amongst other constituencies. When I saw the dossier where children were being followed on their way to school, whilst children in Gaza were being bombed, for me, the two issues, the issues in Newham and the issues in Palestine, I could not separate that. So I was elected as chair of the BME staff network, and the Labour candidate against me was under me. As I was chair of all BME staff, the parliamentary staff was included. So as her former chair, I say to her, sit down. Yes! Yes! When I stood up and I said to the General Secretary, David Evans, and for all my people that are in Croydon South, they know very well how corrupt this individual is. When I stood up and I said to David Evans, I stand with the Palestinians. You and your ilk trained me on anti-Semitism. I know what anti-Semitism is, and the two are not connected. Palestinian liberation and Palestinian freedom has nothing to do with charges of anti-Semitism. I knew they weren't going to change their position, but I asked them a very specific question, and I said, is my job at risk? And when he said, I'll have to get back to you on that, I knew my time was up, but I knew that I was more powerful than them. So that's when I took the decision, one of the biggest decisions of my life at that time, to be a whistleblower and stand against the machine. So a year and a half ago, the Labour files released, and it was based on the biggest data breach in British political history. And what it exposed was the connections that we already knew, but of the Israeli lobby influencing selection processes, but also having the powers that they do in the Labour Party. And in another episode, it exposed the hierarchy of racism and the corruption in Newham Labour. So as I stand here today as the Workers' Party candidate, I am telling the people that for me, the issues in Newham and the issues in Tower Hamlets and the issues in Palestine have always been connected. Now, when I was trying to speak to the people and expose and further tell the people that this is coming a year and a half ago, both the left machine and the right machine played a part in making sure my voice wouldn't come out, because all sides are threatened by the person who speaks to power for the people. So for me, it has always been the people first. I do not shake hands with anybody, because if it's against the interests of the people, I will never do that. When there was people telling me to take a settlement agreement, it was people on the left telling me, Halima, take the settlement agreement. And I refused, and I stand here today as the only candidate in the entire country taking the Labour Party to court, representing myself in an employment tribunal which will continue after this election on July the 30th. Because even if I lose, I am still continuing my fight against this regime, against this racist Labour Party. Now, when Keir Starmer targeted the Bangladeshi community, did he not know, or actually, fundamentally, I know that he didn't know that his whistleblower is of Bangladeshi heritage. He probably thought that Halima Khan was like Sadiq Khan, but unfortunately for him, my grandfather was the leader of the resistance fighter in Moli Bazar, and we single-handedly protected our communities, and we didn't take help from the British. We didn't need help from the British. We stood and we said, we will kick those who want to kill us out. So as my grandfather's granddaughter, I stand here in front of you with a message that anybody that puts a target on our backs, I am going to roar and risk everything, as my grandfather did, as he risked his life to support his community. I do not fear death, and I will continue to do so, because my people need a voice, and they are not invisible. I see every single one of you. I hear your pains when every single other candidate refuses to mention COVID, because COVID is like Israel. You cannot talk about it, but my community had the highest death toll. Bangladeshi communities had the highest death toll. People in Newham had the highest death toll in the entire country. And by and large, that means in Europe, who is speaking for my people? I will. When nobody else will, I will. Really, and I do not fear being cancelled. I do not fear them telling me otherwise. I do not fear most powerful men in this country. And let me tell you a story. I was in Palestine on October the 7th, and when I saw all the Europeans fleeing, I decided to move to Al-Aqsa and be by Al-Aqsa and use my body to defend Al-Aqsa. Now, if I do not fear Israeli soldiers pointing M16s at my face, asking me whether I'm Muslim, do you think I fear a weasel like Keir Starmer? Now let me tell you about Keir Starmer. This man is afraid of Halima Khan, because since I stood, their party has been sending me legal letters every other day to try and bully me into silence. Every day they've been trying to bully me into silence. I'm not afraid. I am a Bengal tiger standing in front of you. When Malcolm X talks about the foxes and the wolves, I face the foxes under the left and I face the wolves under the right. But I am a Bengal tiger who does not fear anybody. I'm at the top of the chain in this game, and that's why they fear me. And when I stood next to Galloway, the biggest anti-establishment figure in politics, how much do you think they sweated? In the middle of the night, Morgan McSweeney had to have a meeting to decide who stands against me, and they chose this woman, Umar Kamran. I am not afraid of her. She's a silly girl. She needs to sit down. So tell all of those candidates who are standing against me to split my vote, because I announced first. Those candidates that are saying they are for Palestine, remind them that they are standing against a witness of the Palestinian genocide. The only candidate in this seat that is here because the people of Palestine told me, do not waste your life and be a martyr here when you have a British privilege. Use that privilege, fight for your people there and fight for your people here. So I'm the only candidate who is endorsed by the Palestinians who told me to come back and stand for them.
As a Palestinian, I'm asking you to stand.
Thank you. So as I said, when you give me the honor of having the parliamentary privilege, there is no better candidate in Stratford and Bow that will fight for people in Newham, Tower Hamlets, and all the way to Palestine. From Newham to Bow, Labour has to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the independence movement and parties that